One. Welcome, listener, to Savage GPT Pulse podcast, the podcast where we will today dive in nitty gritty of supply chain security. I'm your host, Sayyad Amir.
Hey, I'm your co-host Muhammad Ilyas. Today we are focusing on a crucial aspect of digital infrastructure in supply chain and container security.
Right, Elias. So, containers for our listener who might not be that tech savvy or technically interested are a form of lightweight, virtualized operating environment. They allow developers to package in application with all the dependency into single package. You can think about third-party dependencies, GitHub libraries being hosted in various different as a various different application will be used as a library, as you call as a library in a C, C++ or Java program. It has been used as a library in single application through various containers. So you don't have to spawn up those for every program. It will be created and can be reused as.
Well, yeah, that's correct. And while they're incredibly efficient for deploying applications consistently across multiple environments, they also present unique security challenges as well in place. So especially when you have supply chain context or other dependencies, as you mentioned, so we need to be aware of the security challenges while dependencies while bringing the single packages into the picture.
Certainly. So we can take a simple example of healthcare industry where from various compliance and compliance as well as risk standpoint challenges comes around with application as well as when organization need to integrate whether various nitty-gritty of supply chain into containerized application. It's as you integrate various steps of application, the complexity increase.
Right. The healthcare industry relies heavily on technology for everything from records management to the real-time medical device operations. So this means a lot of sensitive data is it's flowing in and out of the system. So this constantly being processed and transferred. So we need to be aware of the patient's data, critical data, kind of critical asset. So whether it might be their credit card details, SSN details, or any sort of sensitive information we need to be mindful of.
Yeah, of course. So there's a lot of data processing happening now through container. It might be various data processing platform like Kafka and Apache Spark. So, but these different environment are handling sensitive data from patient record and running various backend services for hospital management system.
Right. However, the rise of container use has increased to attack vectors. So if these containers are compromised, so it can potentially expose sensitive data and as well disrupt the critical healthcare services too.
Yep. So that's where container security comes in.
Right.
We can take another hypothetical example, where imagining large hospital network. Although we can take names here, but we can uh, take it as a hypothetical one. If anyone in any Indian listener is listening, last year we have a pretty much big attack on one of the major hospitals. So we can imagine that that suppose that is being using various containers for managing patient data and they are interfacing with the various lab and pharmacies. Those integration will be for the patient record ID is been generated, and those will be associated with the health record, X-ray report, and their medicine. So the drug store will know about the patient ID associated with its medical requirement, and based on that, that validation is done.
Right. If any part of the containerized pipeline gets breached, it could lead to massive data leaks or worse. So tampering with the patient's information and treatment plans doesn't seems to be like alternative for that. So it's not a treatment plan; it's kind of treatment treatment remedy. Well, how you're securing the patient's data. End of the day, that's what is more important. It's not about like kind of a plan. I respect like I really like consider the treatment plan is more important as equally important, but the security plays like a weighted role on the patient's data though.
Yep. So it's not about at that. If we're talking about the treatment plan, it's not just security. It's actually the damage scenario is much bigger. Anything can happen at that point. So absolutely, key solution here to is to implement robust container management practices with which includes trusted base images, or if it is required using latest images, but usually base images are more than sufficient. Having regular scanning of the container with specific container security scanners like Trevis and those tools, and managing container configuration security. As we know, with all kind of ISE, it's always the misconfiguration which comes into play.
Correct. Absolutely. Like, it's all also about setting up proper isolation policies between containers, which can prevent a compromised container from affecting others. Meaning, like, setting up a proper isolation policies. There are, but containers is crucial for several reasons, though. But let's say security. So when you isolate, the isolation helps prevent a compromised container from affecting others. So if one container is compromised due to security vulnerability or malicious code, so the impact can be limited to that container, not spread to other host system. So this is how you are like narrowing down. And when coming to the resource management, that's another element I would say. So when isolating containers ensures that each one has access to only those resources. So it needs such a CPU, memory, and disk spaces in place. So this prevents another contention and ensure predictable performance for each applications. And the other important element I would say the dependency management, which the container encapsulates an application and dependencies. So where you ensure the environment in which the application runs is consistent across different systems. So you're not isolating too much. So isolation does helps maintain this consistency by preventing conflicts between a dependency used by different containers, though.
Uh, right, Elias, you have covered a lot of points. Specifically, workload isolation is always the right way to start with. Another critical practice is having continuous monitoring and logging of container activities. So that helps in detecting, responding to the threats in real time, as well as isolating the problem there, which is crucial with the high stake environment like healthcare and even financial.
Right. Uh, yeah. So, like definitely that's another definitive plan I would say. So the like when coming to the given real world examples, I would say let's look into how some hospitals are integrating solutions. So like Kubernetes, K8 we call it as, so which includes security features designed to enhance the container orchestration security. So like let's say scalability, the hospital deals with vast amount of data these days. So from patient records to to the imaging files and beyond. So the Kubernetes provides a scalable platform for managing containerized applications, so allowing hospitals to handle the fluctuations in the workload efficiently. And regulatory compliance is the most important thing, like from the GRC perspective, governance and compliance endpoint. So the healthcare organizations are subject to strict regulatory requirements such as HIPAA, so the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act in the United States, where Kubernetes provides capabilities to help hospitals meet these compliance standards by implementing the robust security measures and audit logging.
Yep, that's a great example, and HIPAA compliance is, of course, very important there. So this actually shows how critical container security is as a component for supply chain security. And by securing containers, hospitals like organizations can protect themselves from data breaches, ensuring their critical services remain uninterrupted. So now we can let's dive in bit deeper between what are the challenges and challenges with container security, and let's see what we can identify here. So in if I topple my head, I will see that first of all, as we discussed, that trusted base images. So mainly the vulnerability in images is one of the challenge. So because the container image can inherit vulnerabilities from the base image or have them introduced during the application build phase, and an outdated vulnerable base image can compromise all the containers uh, derived from it. And so the main solution can be having having regular scan, as well as a bit of code reviews of the ISE Docker Compose, and updating the container images. And so if we talk about any example, then it's kind of a financial financial service company can is using containers to handle transaction. They implement a policy where all container images are scanned for vulnerabilities and deployment regularly thereafter. This ensures financial application running in a secure and updated the software, mitigating the risk of data breach as well as financial fraud.
Right. So there's another like the challenge we come across in our day-to-day things, like the misconfiguration things. So misconfiguration container deployments pose a significant challenge. So it's very hard to maintain the security and integrity of the infrastructure these days. So given the intricacies involved in managing the containers and their orchestration platforms, like it's common for errors to occur in configuration potentiality, leaving vulnerabilities which can open to exploitations and these configurations. So let's say, to address this particular challenge, so the organization can implement a solution centered around automating configuration management and adopting security as a code approach, where you can automate configuration management by automating the management process. Organizations can reduce the likelihood of human error and ensure consistency across their containerized environments. So by configuration of management tools can enforce security policies such as least privileged access controls, network segmentations, and container runtime security, and also based on the predefined templates or policies. And the next another way, the to address this challenge is security as a code. So by embracing security as code principle, which involves codifying security policies as well as controls to the development and deployment pipelines. So this not only allows security measures to be integrated seamlessly into the software development lifecycle, from code to creation to deployment and runtime. So by having treating security configuration as a code, the version controls and automated testing, continuous CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment practices it ensures that security measures are consistently applied and validated throughout the development and deployment processes.
Yep, sure. So, and when we talk about misconfiguration as well as vulnerability in images, there are another aspect of the container lifecycle is registries, the container registries. There is always a possibility of compromises in container registry as well. If it is a public one, if a public registry, container registry is compromised, it can lead to distribution of malicious images, which potentially are very hard to detect unless you have a certain policy in place. So which can impact the entire container deployment across the organizations. So the major solution is to use private registries. These private registries can be from a Azure Kubernetes, or there are some. So that's the first mitigation step. And second one is we can have, like, many of the people are very interested in having SBOM as their list of policies in them. But with six store, I think the validation and verification is very seamless if we have cosign tool being used, which can be used for verifying as well as validation of the images. And then we can another tool which can be used for creating transparency log is Wrecker, which helps in identification or actually incident response of in if or in the real time if anything happens in place. So any use case like executil where continuously the GitHub repo was changed by the maintainer over the period of time, and that cannot be directly detected, but at least the images change can be verified by the uh, cosign key. And if there is a private key of the organization itself, then that helps into making the defense in depth security, even in case of compromise registries and repos. So with specifically for software agency using private container registry with strict access control, mandatory image signing with the cosign and stuff before any image is been pulled in from the is been pulled into a production environment. The signature need to be verified and ensure it hasn't been tampered since being uploaded. This actually reduces the risk of deploying malicious or altered images across the client projects.
Right. There's another the other the challenge and solution that came up to my mind is the lack of visibility and monitoring. So the containers can be ephemeral and dynamic, so making traditional monitoring tools ineffective. So this lacks visibility and can delay the detection of security incidents. So like the solution can be adopt a container specific monitoring tools and integrate security monitoring. If not, then then have a healthcare provider manage the patient data through application deployed in containers. So where you can have in different applications where this tool can track metrics such as resource usage, network traffic patterns, and application performance in real time. So additionally, these tools also provide insights to container lifecycle events such as creation, deletion, scaling, wherever is crucial for maintaining the security posture. So by integrating the container monitoring with the organization security information and event management, the SIEM system, which can enhance the detection capabilities further, as well as the SIM system aggregates the security events from various sources across the infrastructure, so including logs, containers. So if you feel like if there are a lot of devices and applications, so by correlating these events and applying advanced analytics, so the SIM can identify potential security threats as well as anomalies that may indicate a breach or unauthorized access. So I would say, like in healthcare, the specialized container monitoring tool also enables the provider to meet compliance requirements and safeguard patients' data. So it ensures that any deviations from normal behavior within the containerized environment are promptly detected and investigated. So let's say, for example, if there is an unusual network activity or unauthorized access attempts, so the monitoring tool can trigger an alert to security personnel or a SOC or NOC, SOC team or a NOC team, whoever is monitoring, so allowing them to take an immediate action to mitigate the threat. So the combination of container specific monitoring tool and integration with the SIM system offers a proactive approach to security in containerized environment. So it empowers an organization to maintain continuous visibility and detect security incidents in the real time and respond effectively to mitigate the risk and protect sensitive data.
Yep, that actually brings me another point. As with container monitoring, it's main the complexity of the layers in container, and that's the main disadvantage for the traditional SaaS and DAS tools, which are not capable of secure scanning of any non-executing code, which is actually the containers configuration. So in that sense, many of the container scanning tools does do in-depth scanning of layers in the containers like Trevi, which is actually very good tool for which where it ingests the layers of container, and for every layer it's check how those execution will lead on to which image over the period of time, and based on that various security recommendation can be generated so specifically uh, designated container scanners are much more important to be used um, compared to the traditional SaaS and DAS tool, which are not sufficiently useful in case of container scanning.
Right. So, well, So it's kind of like, no, it was a fascinating topic. So we are just scratching the surface here. So for those of you looking to delve deeper, we will include some resources and some links in our show notes on how to implement effective container security strategies. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in, guys. So remember, in the world of supply chain security, staying informed is your best defense. So yeah, so buckle up as we embark on the journey through the cyber realm. So uncovering the threats and opportunities that lie ahead. So don't forget to subscribe because Cyber GPT Pulse podcast, a channel electrifies your cybersecurity knowledge. So well, that's all for this week, and thanks for watching this episode. So contact information is in the show notes. If you have any questions, comments, or topics that you want us to discuss in the future, feel free to email us. So until next time, stay safe and secure and protect your digital world.
Yep. Thanks for tuning, guys.